Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It's been a long time. I wish I was back under better circumstances, had better news to report. But as you know, things are not looking too great right now. Wait for anybody to show up. I'm going to share the stream on Twitter, and then we're going to get started with the first story that I have for you all today. Y'all comment in the chat. Let me know how y'all doing. Let me know um, if there's anything that you think I need to be informed on. Go ahead, let me know in the chat. Uh, some people in the chat already commenting. Just give me one moment. If you all can share the live stream, the link to the live stream on your social media, I'd greatly appreciate that. Give me one moment. That's what I'm doing right now. Haven't been live in a while. Might as well make it a party. Give me one second. And of course, I'm going to go over your comments before I get into the first story. Just give me one moment. Little rusty here on this side, as you can imagine. Let me see. Trying to find a link to my stream. All right. All right, so I'm going on 4 minutes on this. All right. I see West Coast crazy. Thought this channel was RIP, to be honest. Yes, I can see why you thought that, but you're not getting rid of me that easy. No. Of course, life happens. Things take me away from what I love to be doing, but I'm here and let's have a good time while I am. Aziz Adam says, "Wow, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. I am doing okay. I hope you're doing well. Hope everybody in my audience is doing well." Uh, I think we're going to get into the first topic. So we have two different stories that I prepared. Oh, and by the way, thank you all for the support and everything that you've done to help out this channel, and you guys have helped me get a lot of this equipment that I'm using right now to upgrade the quality of the show, and I greatly appreciate that. Uh, Shout out to my sister who also helped me with some equipment. Appreciate that. I have a new camera that I'm using for the first time on a live stream. I know there's a like some glitch going on with it. If anybody else notices it, I think it's called like screen tearing or something. I don't know. I'm not a video expert. If you all know how to fix that issue, you'll let me know. But I'm going to get into the first topic. The two that we have prepared today are, and by the way, follow me on Twitter, Snapchat. No, I'm talking about that. Follow me on Twitter and Substack. I post content. I've posted articles on Substack since the last time I've been live. So if you want to follow up with all of the content that I do, follow me on Substack. My Substack's free. There's options for paid subscriptions if you feel like it. Of course, Twitter is free. Follow me on Twitter. Um, all right. So yes, as the title suggests, the topics we want to talk about are the mass graves that are now being found all over Gaza, which is expected. You massacre tens of thousands of people, over 40,000 people since October, massacred, most of them children, at least half of them children. Eventually, you're going to run out of places to put the bodies. The morgues are full, the cemeteries are full, and bodies are just piling up all over Gaza, in hospitals, on the streets. It is just not. It's a horrible situation, and everything that can be done to make the situation worse is being done. So that is, it's a horrific story, and I'm going to get into that, and also concentration camps. The irony, Israel, the IDF is has active concentration camps where they're holding and torturing Palestinians. And like I said, just the irony is just off the charts here. The people who never fail to remind everybody of the genocides and the horrors that their people was subject to are now the ones with their own running their own concentration camps. Isn't it funny how it all works out? So let me just get into the topics. I see Ashore in the chat. Of course, appreciate you. I know you couldn't miss a live stream. Good to see you here. Where Pilgrim in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. All right, so let me get into the first topic that I have prepared for you all. All right, so I have so ever since Netanyahu and the Israeli government launched their brutal assault on the already occupied Palestinians in Gaza in October, it has just been a bloodbath, a massacre, a genocide is really what it is. From the very beginning, we're going to grandfather in the horrific conditions that Palestinians were living in before October 7th. Most of the time they were living without electricity. The amount of food that was coming into to Palestine was limited by Israel. They weren't allowed to ever build an airport. They have no commerce. They have no. They can't even use their access to the waters off their coast because it's blocked off by Israel. So before October 7th, the situation in Gaza was untenable. Lack of clean water, all of that stuff, lack of refrigeration. All of those things were going on before then, and bombing the last power plants in Gaza, which had led to the energy crisis, even before October 7th. And all of that got ratcheted up to it's just unprecedented levels. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in modern history, where the Israeli government comes out and just says, we're going to stop all food and water and electricity coming into Gaza. We're going to cut off all the internet access. We're going to strip them of all basic necessities and infrastructure. And then on top of that, they're going to unleash like an unprecedented assault of airstrikes and bombings and drone attacks to massacre the entire civilian population. And I honestly I'm not entertaining the argument about whether or not this is a genocide, whether or not they have intent of displacing or just outright murdering all of the Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank, because frankly, all of their actions are showing that's exactly what they're doing. And to even make a entertain an argument that this is anything other than that, you'd have to put aside the actions and the words of the Israeli government and have to give that equal weight to the statements that they put out to cover their own ass and to not look as horrific as they do it in public opinion. Because really all of these press releases saying, oh, we're not actually doing a genocide, it's just really backtracking and covering their ass to muddy the waters of this whole conversation so that we're not actually talking about what they're doing. So I'm not entertaining that bullshit. What they're doing is a genocide. And the information that's coming out now is just horrific. So there's an article in Al Jazeera that came out a couple of days ago talking about mass graves being found in Gaza. So I have a couple quotes from that I want to share with you all, and then I'll give you guys my commentary in between. But I do want to say this. What I've seen, and I'm sure you've all seen on social media, and the facts of the situation, these are not all the mass graves to be found in Gaza. These are not all of the bodies that have been unaccounted for. And when the day comes when people are actually allowed to really take account of what happened in Gaza, this story is just going to be I would say a precursor of what's going to come, because there's going to be plenty more stories of mass graves. So let me get into this, some of the quotes from Al Jazeera. Give me one moment. Okay. And let me just pull up the quotes so I can read them for you, because the way I have them on my screen is a little small. Like I said, I haven't done a live stream in a little while, so it is working out some of the technical issues here. Give me a moment. All right, so this first quote, it says, and I'll, at the end of this, I'll put the link to the article so you can read it for yourself. It says, quote, more than 500 bodies have been recovered, with Palestinian officials saying several of them showed signs of mutilation and torture amounting to war crimes. Israel, and I said earlier that I'm not entertaining the bullshit propaganda coming from the Israeli army to justify their genocide. But this quote was from the IDF, was put there, and I want to read it to you because I think it's valuable because it gives paints a picture of what they're trying to do, and basically psychological warfare to muddy the waters and distract from what we all know that they're doing, which is horrific and unjustifiable, and have everybody arguing over semantics. Like, oh, is it anti-Semitic to be against genocide? Or is it really a bad thing if we're bombing civilians because they're hiding? Hamas is hiding behind civilians. Is it a bad thing to bomb a hospital because Hamas is hiding there? All of these nonsense things that they do to distract the conversation. So the quote from the Israeli military, it was they said that the allegations were baseless, and they said that the bodies were buried by Palestinians during the fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas in the area. All right, so let me just what does that have to do with anything? The war crimes being levied against Israel, it's not, the outrage isn't about, oh, the Israeli army buried these bodies. They buried 500 bodies. 500 bodies. Hundreds of them were just outside of a hospital. That's not what the outrage is. The outrage is the military, the Israeli military killed 500 people. Who buried them is a secondary, or even even more removed from the conversation of your military just killed. And this is a very low number, but specifically in the context of the story, 500 people, 500 dead people is what we're talking about. Killed in your airstrikes, killed by ground assaults, killed by your bombings, and killed by your famine that you've and the horrific medical conditions that you've created. So again, like I said, this is just part of their psychological warfare to have people arguing about shit that is not even the topic of discussion, as if what everybody was concerned about was who buried the bodies and not the fact that the Israeli military is responsible for there being such an overload of dead bodies everywhere that the Palestinians have no choice but to bury the hundreds of bodies in mass graves, or the Israeli military is doing it to cover up their crimes. But either way, the root of it all is they're massacring hundreds of civilians at a time. Let me get on to the next quote from the article I want to share. Actually, this one isn't a quote. What I'm going to share with you is what I want to share with you all right now is, because like I've been talking about, there's nothing more that the Palestinians can do about these bodies. They're piling up everywhere. They're piling up in people's homes. They're piling up in the streets. They're piling up. The morgues are filled. The cemeteries are filled. The hospitals are filled. And even the situation was so bad. I have a video of a doctor from, I believe she was working in Al-Shifa Hospital, one of the largest medical centers in Gaza, which is now, just like all the other hospitals, are not operational because of the intentional bombings and attacks by the Israeli military. And this video was from October, months before these mass graves were found. Doctors screaming, crying, begging for mercy because there's dead bodies, there's dead children everywhere, and they don't have anywhere to put them. Aside from the fact they don't have medical supplies to treat people, aside from the fact that they're doing amputations with no medicine, with no anesthesia, just in hospital hallways. Aside from that, they have nowhere to put the dead bodies. So, and they're begging for mercy so they can find somewhere to put the bodies. So I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to come back for you.
الأطفال الصغار هيك ما ينفعش الكلام، والله ما بينفع يا رب الكلام هذا اللي بنعمل، ما مش هيك، مش لهالدرجة. صغار هدول ميتين، ماتوا صغار، مش ملحقين احنا، مش ملحقين حالنا يشوفونا يطلعوا لنا. يا اخي احنا دمنا زي الدم التانيين. حرام عليهم، حرام عليهم، حرام عليهم. حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل بهم. ما احناش عارفين وين نحط الصغار، ما احناش عارفين وين نحط الكبار. النسوان تعرن، الشباب راحوا، الشيوخ راحوا. حرام عليهم يا عالم، يا عالم، يا
So this is the situation on the ground in Gaza that everybody's been forced to witness on social media. Let me. I don't want to. I'm not going to say that having to view this is anywhere near as bad as the people living in this situation, but it is worth noting that this is what everybody in the world has been subjected to viewing. Doctors screaming, crying because they don't know what to do anymore, and the situation keeps getting worse. And I'll continue with the stories about the mass graves, and this, like I said, this is what's happening in Al Shifa, the largest hospital in Gaza. Can't imagine what's happening in the other out of commission hospitals in Gaza. Let me get on to the next quote that I want to share with you all from the Al Jazeera article. So this next quote says, Mohammed Zanin, a member of the Palestinian Civil Defense in Gaza, told Al Jazeera on Thursday that a fourth gravesite containing 42 bodies had been found at Al Shifa Hospital. The bodies were decomposed and unrecognizable, but some had IDs on them or were identified by relatives from clothing remains. So one thing I want to get on about the bodies, the IDs in particular, there's stories coming out now that on top of the already just incomprehensible levels of inhumanity, it's not enough for them to regularly, unrepentantly bomb civilian areas and civilian infrastructure, and like I said, cut off all access to necessary services to survive. That's not enough for the IDF, and it's not even enough to bomb the hospitals. They're targeting doctors on purpose, bombing doctors when they go home, or doing when they did the ground invasion in Al Shifa Hospital. They were intentionally targeting medical professionals so that they can't treat the injured Palestinians that they're injuring. How much more cruel and depraved can it get? The people who are risking everything already to treat the injured people in their community with no medical supplies, and like I mentioned before, they're doing amputations on hospital floors, among dead bodies, among screaming people and people all over the place. They're doing amputations with no painkillers, with no anesthesia on hospital floors. These people are by definition, heroes. And then the IDF is targeting them on purpose, killing them. It's so bad that civilians are having to give the doctors and the nurses their clothes when they leave the hospital so that they aren't targeted and killed by the IDF. Because like I said, they're targeting medical professionals on purpose. And then also, about Al Shifa Hospital, you remember the whole fucking show that they were going on about, talking about that, oh, Hamas has these command centers under these hospitals, right? That's why we have to bomb the hospitals. That's the justification that they give them for that to bomb the hospitals, right? They have these command centers in the hospital, and they said Al Shifa was the main one. It was the main one. So they have to go in there. They have to do a ground invasion, a ground assault into Al Shifa Hospital. And then they did it twice already. And the first time they did it, what did they do? What did they find to justify bombing a hospital, which is, by the way, being used as a shelter on top of everything else, because people have nowhere to go. Their houses have been bombed, their schools have been bombed, the churches have been bombed, the mosques have been bombed. So the one place that people have to go is the hospital, and still that is not off limits, because, like I said before, they're intentionally trying to cause as much suffering and trying to kill as many Palestinians as they can, and to force ethnic cleansing and maybe force them out of Gaza. And they went in and raided the hospital, and what did they find? They found, like, first of all, I don't even say they found it, because God knows they probably just went in there, because all this shit could have fit in a duffel bag, and they could have just walked into the fucking hospital with 2 rifles and handcuffs or whatever other bullshit that they found in there, and they were acting like this was the Hamas hub. This is the command center for Hamas. And like I said, all of these lies, all of these nonsense to muddy the waters and create discourse over nonsense, and we're over here arguing over whether or not this was this hospital, which by all accounts is a sanctuary for the public. We're over here arguing whether or not it was a Hamas command center because a bunch of fucking liars and genociders said it was. Because they said it was. So, let me go on to the next quote that I have for you all. And so this quote just goes on to describe the horrific apocalyptic conditions that everybody is in Gaza is forced to live under and forced to witness at this point. This quote says, "Before the dead bodies are reburied at a new site, relatives of the missing search for pieces of clothing around the remains for a sign of their loved ones. At times, the corpses have been left unattended. Quote, the dogs came to devour the bodies, and the smell was deadly." So you have dogs tearing apart bodies in mass graves. And again, mind you, this is 2024. This is happening, right? 2024. This is the next quote that I have for you all. Civil defense member Mohammed Moghir said at least 10 of the bodies had been found with bound hands, while others still had medical tubes attached to them. He added that additional forensic examination was needed on about 20 bodies of people who they suspect had been buried alive. So on top of the 10 people with their hands bound, handcuffed, tied, or whatever the fuck it was. So clearly they weren't a threat and they were still executed. They must have been executed to be found dead with their hands bound. Prisoners executed. That's not enough. 20 people buried alive. I mean, so what exactly is the distinction that they're trying to draw between the IDF and the Hitler crew? Because, you know, if you say the word sometimes, especially if you compare the Israelis to them, they're really acting like Nazis, to be real with you. So let's just keep it a buck. What's the difference here? Just because they're not throwing people in gas chambers, it's okay? This is justified? This is acceptable? Or this is anywhere near the realm of what should be allowed? Because they've come short, and for all we know, we don't know everything that's going on in Gaza. So let me not put anything past them. But there are no documented cases of them throwing people in gas chambers as of yet. So we can't call them Nazis, I guess. Even though they're burying people alive, even though they're executing people with their hands bound, innocent civilians. That's the distinction, I guess, because there's no other way to describe this genocide, this unprecedented genocide. Let me get to the, I think this is the last quote from this Al Jazeera article that I want to share with you all. Oh, and this one's a kicker. This one here is a kicker. Because, I'll read the quote now. I'll explain how I'm feeling about it. Quote, evidence gathered at the mass graves could point to specific offenses or be merged into broader inquiries into war crimes. An unbiased judiciary and investigatory organization may be set up, but this will take decades of work and cost a large sum of money, requiring the support of wealthy countries. And that right there sums up the injustice of this entire situation. One of the biggest lies that the public have been sold, I would say post the World Wars, World War I and World War II, has been that there is some semblance of world order, right? And unlike the olden days where we had kings and kingdoms and lords and princes and all that shit, and they would round up an army and go massacre a village and burn a village to the ground and kill all the women and children and turn them into slaves and all of that stuff. There was the biggest lie that's been told was there's some sort of separation in history, and that kind of stuff can't happen anymore. All the rampant massacres and just war crimes and that shit can't happen anymore, because we have international law, right? We have international there's supposed to be rules here, and people who don't follow the rules, well, they're war criminals. They'll be tried and they'll be prosecuted. And that is so far from the truth. And the situation in Gaza isn't the first time where that giant chasm between reality and the fiction that they try to sell us as reality has been put on display. Because, of course, you look at what the U.S. has been doing in the Middle East and all over the world, really, since the 60s, the 50s, and you tell me that there's anything called international law. Because, like, many people smarter than me have said, if international law was a thing, every single president, U.S. president, would be in prison. They would be charged for war crimes because they're all war criminals. And just recent example, the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen. All these illegal wars and all the war crimes that were exposed all through it, the torture scandals and the kidnapping and torturing and other times we bombed hospitals, the U.S. Government bombing hospitals, bombing apartment buildings, all of these things, bombing churches and mosques and schools and all these things. Yeah, it was very clear that there was a very clear argument to be made that there was no international law ever. And it was just all a lie to pacify the public. But with this situation in Gaza, how much worse can it get? How much worse can a single country behave? How much disregard for human life can a single country show than what we're seeing right now? This is worst case scenario. This is worst case scenario. A brazen genocide in broad daylight. And even still, even as the IDF and Netanyahu come out and say, we're not allowing any food and water into Gaza. There will be no electricity for 2 million people in Gaza. And we're going to bomb them relentlessly, endlessly, for months on end, indefinitely. Hospitals, schools, homes, refugee camps, UN facilities. We're going to level the place. We're going to raise Gaza to the ground. They're saying it. We're watching them do it. We're on live stream. It's all being posted on social media. The evidence is available for anybody to see. And still, oh man, these war crimes investigations, it might take decades. It might take decades to investigate it and bring up some charges. It might take decades. And even if it does take decades for it to happen, well, how is it going to happen unless these wealthy countries put up the money to fund the investigations and to fund the prosecutions? It just can't happen. So we all see genocide happening right now. But the investigations will take decades, and it won't happen unless the people who are facilitating this genocide, arming Israel, they also put money up to fund the investigation. That's the only way that's going to happen. So there is no international law. That was the gist of that rant there. There is no international law because when we all see war crimes with our own eyes in broad daylight, and nobody is going to do anything to stop it. There will be no intervention by the International Criminal Court. Not yet. They have the South Africa is bringing their case, their criminal complaint against Israel and Netanyahu and the IDF and accusing them of genocide. Yes, I see that happening. But where is that? Where is this going to go? Where is it going to go? Are they really going to round up Netanyahu and the Israeli cabinet and prosecute them for war crimes right now? Are they going to, really, the International Criminal Court, are they going to be the ones to stop this massacre right now and arrest them? Or is it going to be like this article says, hey man, if something happens, if anything comes of this, it'll be decades from now. Oh my God. Give me one moment. My laptop's down. I need to plug it in. So, the way I see it is there are three scenarios that can I wouldn't say even fix the situation, or end the suffering in Gaza, because at this point, after everything that's happened, there's no going back to the way it was before October 7th. They literally don't even have the infrastructure to. Before it was debatable whether they had the infrastructure to support 2 million people before. That is not up for debate at this point. There are no hospitals. There are no schools. There is no electricity. There's no infrastructure to bring goods and food throughout Palestine. All of that is dead now. So I won't even say these three options will stop the suffering, but these are the only three options to stop the unrelenting bombings and assaults and ground raids and everything else that's going on in Gaza. Either domestic pressure from inside Israel, political pressure to call for an end of the war. Yes, there are some people in Israel who are protesting the war and calling for the end of the war, but they are not the majority in Israel, because there's a lot of bloodlust, and you can say that's the population is victim of propaganda, whatever you want to say. All I know is we live in 2024, and there's enough information and enough video and enough pictures and enough testimonials and enough crying doctors and enough crying babies and dead baby parts all over the place for anybody, regardless of the propaganda, for anybody to come away with the conclusion that this is wrong. But still, a large percentage of the Israeli population, there is this bloodlust, and they're supported. They're all for this massacre and this genocide in Gaza. So the idea that domestic pressure in Israel is going to bring an end to the bombing, like I said, there's one of the three scenarios, but that is very unlikely. Another scenario is here in the U.S., domestic pressure here builds up to, as it has been, and I'm very proud to see the pushback that this massacre has been getting here in the United States. If there's domestic pressure builds up enough to the point where it is untenable to keep sending Israel the weapons that they're using to fund this genocide, that's one of the only options. And again, that seems unlikely because of the blackmail and because of the corruption and all the other reasons why the establishment in this country is supporting this genocide. But like I said, that is one of the only options. And then the third option, which is I don't know. I don't even. The only other option is if the other Arab countries in the region say enough is enough. And regardless if you have the U.S. backing you, regardless if you have Europe backing you, if Israel is intent on massacring 2 million Arabs in their region, then the other countries, whether it's Jordan and Lebanon and Egypt and the UAE, whoever it is, and who have been sitting back and watching this massacre going on this entire time, the only other option is if they intervene and oppose Israel with an actual standing military, like an actual invasion or a defense of Gaza. Those are the only options that I can see where Israel would be put into a situation where they have to stop the bombing. Because like I said, at this point, I don't think they have any intentions of turning back. They've made clear that they want to force the 2 million people in Gaza into the Sinai Desert in Egypt, force them to live in. They literally are putting out plans to build tent cities in the desert in Egypt to have 2 million Palestinians live there. So they're already on this track and they're committed, and it's going to be outside intervention that stops the bombing. And like that last quote that I shared from that Al Jazeera article, I don't think it's going to be an international criminal court. It's not going to be the International Court of Justice that intervenes and puts an end to this. So this is horrific. The stories of mass graves are just going to keep piling up as the months continue, as the years continue, because it is literal apocalyptic conditions. The healthcare system has collapsed. Civil infrastructure in Gaza has collapsed. And on top of that, the bombings are relentless. So they have nowhere to put the bodies as is, and the bodies are just going to keep piling up. So they're going to just inevitably be more mass graves. And I'm going to have to keep coming out here, and everybody else is going to keep coming out and reporting on other mass graves that are found. And this is the world that we're living in 2024. So let me get to the comments. Read some comments. Give me one moment. We need critical thinking. Reporting against the genocide as a journalist in Palestine is one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. Yes. Like I mentioned before, they were intentionally targeting doctors. They're also doing it with journalists too. Out in broad daylight, you're not going to mistake them for anybody else. Wearing press jackets, out there with their cameras, their lights, and recording equipment, microphones, and all that shit, and they're still being bombed. There's stories of like, just like I was reading that article from Al Jazeera. They're one of the few major outlets that have been operating in Gaza this entire time, and there have been more than one story of the IDF bombing the homes of these Palestinian journalists and wiping out their entire families as retaliation for them, showing the world what the Israeli government is doing. So yes, it is very dangerous to be a journalist right now in Palestine, and I do believe it's the deadliest conflict for the deadliest conflict for journalists. More journalists have been killed in this conflict than anyone in modern history, and the same for doctors, and the same for UN staff, because they're also being targeted on purpose by the IDF. Blarg says, and we're meant to believe that the death count has remained at 35,000 for all these months. Gross underestimate at this point. I'm disgusted. Yeah. I swear to God, they've been saying 35,000 people have been dead since like December of last year. So you mean to tell me Israel's been keeping up with this relentless bombing and still not allowing aid in, and there's still no medicine in there, still no medical equipment, and hospitals are literally not operational at this point. And you mean to tell me, with all of those things compounding for months and months and months, the death toll is still at 35,000? I don't believe that, and I believe the Gaza Health Ministry, who's been keeping track of these numbers, at some point they said, yeah, we're not able to provide accurate numbers at this point. So everybody is just repeating this 35,000 number, and who knows where it is right now, but it's definitely over 35,000, over 40,000, maybe over 45,000, and numbers like 15,000 children dead. Oh my God. 15,000 children dead. How do you justify that? Body parts blown all over. I've seen such horrific shit. And this isn't the first time that I've covered war and massacres and war crimes. But my God, the amount of body parts from children and kids with their heads literally blown in pieces. And people, there's the I don't even engage with them because at this point, there's nothing I can say. If you're gonna come out here and cheer on babies and children being blown apart, why would I waste my breath to try to tell you that's a bad thing? I think built in all humans who aren't disgusting, foul pieces of shit. Built in all humans is the instinct that is all horrific. And if you seeing that, you enjoy it and you want more of it, there's nothing anybody can say to make you less barbaric. I don't know what to say about that. Namor says it's been a hot minute. Nice to see you Unapologetic. It is nice to see all of you all, and I appreciate everybody showing up on this completely unannounced live stream. So I appreciate all of y'all for that. Let me see. We need critical thinking. YouTube will not let these words post together. Evil. Okay, I see what you're saying. Evil Zionist. I do workarounds. I see what you're saying, and I hear you on that. Paul Eisenberg, great to see you again. I was actually thinking the other day, where is Unapologetic? I'm sure a lot of people in my audience were thinking the same thing, but let me tell you, I'm working things around. So I can make more content. Last couple days I've been working with technical issues, but like I said, I've been itching to come back, and I was gonna make it happen. So I'm glad to be back. Let's see. Paul, we need critical thinking. Says Unapologetic seems to be getting better and getting his flow as the show goes on. I appreciate that. Like I said, we got to knock off a little bit of rust, but I still got it. And don't let anybody else tell you different. Some of the best commentary you're going to get on the internet right here. Brian S. says hundreds of millions of people won't unsee this. Yeah. I would say that unlike many of the other massacres that the U.S. has been involved in my lifetime, the visibility that this has had, first of all, you can't look away, and once you see all of that, there's no, maybe there's two sane, rational, not blackmailed people and not rabid Zionist people. You don't see all of that and ever go back to giving Israel the benefit of the doubt. You don't ever go back to say, oh, well, they did this and then, it was a response. There's no, for the normally not following war crimes part of the population, when you see all of that, it changes your worldview. And then if anything comes of that, I hope that people remember exactly what the Israeli government is capable of and is willing to do, and how far our own government is going to go to support them. Amir asked if I have a Twitter account. I do have a Twitter account. So if you go to the About page on the YouTube channel, where people normally have like all the links, if you scroll like to where there's tabs for the videos and live streams and all this stuff, all the way at the end there's like an About page, and I do have links to Substack. I have links to my Twitter account and all this stuff. My name on Twitter is Unapologetic YT, as like for YouTube, because that's why I made the account for my YouTube account. So you could follow me on Twitter at unapologetic YT. So I'm about to get into, and again, thank you all so much for the comments. It was, I appreciate it. And one of the things I love about doing these live streams, I love posting videos too, but one of the things I love about the live streams is I'm able to interact with you all and get your, how you all are feeling like in real time, and we can have like these conversations. Even though, like I always say, and I stand by this and I'm proud of this, and I'll do it as long as I can. I read every single comment on every single one of my YouTube videos. Even if I don't respond, I promise you I've read every single comment that any of you have ever posted. So this has been definitely a good conversation, despite the horrific subject that we're talking about. So let me get into the next one. But before we do, there are links in the description of this video of ways you can support the show, and you can support the content if you like the content. The biggest thing that has ever kept me away from doing this show has been money. So if you all want me to make more content, please help support the show, make that less of an issue. There are links to there's a link to places you could donate to the live stream on Streamlabs. All of that is in the description box of the video. Links to Streamlabs. If you want to do a one-time contribution on PayPal, the link's there. The one-time contribution on Cash App, that's there. If you want to sign up to be a monthly subscriber on Patreon and support the show monthly, I'd greatly appreciate that. And shout out to all the people who have over the years helped the show and subscribe to Patreon. Even though I don't have anything, behind a paywall, because that is something that I always felt strongly about. People, just because they appreciate the content, they have just signed up for my Patreon, and I greatly appreciate all of that. So I'm going to get into the next story that I have right now. This one is about the concentration camps. Yes, I said it. Israel is running concentration camps, torture camps, where they have a bunch of innocent Palestinians being held against their will. So give me one moment, and then I'll get into that. I'll get into that story for you all right now. And if you guys can share your, if you can share the link to the live stream on your social media, on your Twitter accounts, Facebook, if you still use it, Instagram, or wherever, I don't judge you. Help more people see it. All right, so let me get back into it. Oh, and by the way, I will post the link to my, let me not say that too loud, because I don't know if I can find that shit. Okay, I won't post a link to my Twitter because I can't find it right now. But like I said, it's in the about page of the channel. All right. So let's... All right, so more news to cover on the genocide going on in Gaza right now. So, as if the parallels and the striking similarities between what the Israeli government is doing and what Nazi Germany was doing a couple of decades ago, if the similarities weren't enough, they continue with this story. Israel's running concentration camps. Yep, torture camps right there in Palestine, where they have a bunch of innocent Palestinians being held with no trial, not accused of a crime, and being tortured indefinitely. This is a story about a specific camp being held in a Israeli military base, but like the story I just covered with the mass graves, if you think that's the only one, you're sadly mistaken. I'm sure there are plenty other camps in Israel, in Palestine that have similar conditions, and there's been some attention paid to it with the prisoner swaps, and everybody's asking, "Hey, where are you getting all these Palestinian prisoners to be swapping?" Well, they're coming from the all the Palestinians that they have round up extrajudicially with no trial, that they have just locked up in prisons, and that's where they're doing these prisoners, getting people for hostage exchanges. So CNN, of all people, I give it to them. They did some decent journalism here. They have three whistleblowers from the IDF talking about the horrific conditions in this specific torture camp. So let's get into the article. All right, just give me one moment. I have to. All right. So this is a quote from somebody who was eventually released from this facility. Quote: "We were told." Oh, no, no, no. This sorry. This is a quote from one of the members of the IDF. Quote: "We were told they were not allowed to move. They should sit upright. They're not allowed to talk. Not allowed to peek under the blindfolds." Guards were instructed to scream "Uskat," shut up in Arabic, and told to, quote, pick people out that were problematic and punish them, the sources said. So how you want to justify that, I really don't care. So you have dozens of people being held with blindfolds, stripped naked, being forced to sit up at all times, and they can't even talk to each other. Um, like I'm struggling to find the commentary to add to this because this very much speaks for itself. Like I mentioned earlier in that previous segment, as human beings, there's something in us that when we see horrific shit like that, it says that's not a good thing. That's a very bad thing. But the culture is very different in among the rabid pro genocide movement. Uh, Let me get back to another quote from the article. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right one. I thought I put it in the order that I wanted it. Apparently, I did not. So this quote says, "For those who repeatedly breach the prohibition on speaking and moving, because that is definitely a humane rule to have for your extrajudicial prisoners. The punishment became more severe. Israeli guards would sometimes take a prisoner to an outside to an area outside the enclosure and beat him aggressively, according to two whistleblowers and Al Ran. A whistleblower who worked as a guard said he saw a man emerge from a beating with his teeth and some bones apparently broken. So again, the punishment we're talking about here, the crime that they're punishing is they broke the rules that they're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to talk ever, all day, every day, for the indefinite period that they're there. And anybody caught breaking those rules, or maybe if they wanted to lay down for a little bit, you're caught breaking those rules, they're going to beat the shit out of you and break your teeth and break your bones. Are you going to argue? Who's going to argue? I dare anybody. I put up some money. I dare anybody to argue that this wasn't the same shit going on in Nazi Germany concentration camps. This level of depravity and just enjoying, humiliating, and beating the shit out of people, punishing people. And in fact, I have a quote about that. Specifically, give me one moment. I'm going to pull that up right now for you all. Thank you for your patience. So this quote says, "The beatings were not done to gather intelligence. They were done out of revenge," and said another whistleblower. "It was punishment for what they, the Palestinians, did on October 7th, and punishment for their behavior at the camp." Again, so collective punishment, more collective punishment, because that's what Israel is known for these days. Punishing, which is again war crime, raising a war crime, punishing an entire population for actions that they themselves did not specifically do. So they were rounding up random people and putting them in these concentration camps and beating the shit out of them, breaking their teeth because of there was resistance to the occupation on October 7th. And because of that, everybody's subject to getting the shit beat out of them by the Israeli government. All right, now. I have another quote from the article that I want to share for you all. Give me one moment. I have to get this thing. This next quote. Quote, "They paint a picture of a facility where doctors sometimes amputated prisoners' limbs due to injuries sustained from constant handcuffing of medical procedures sometimes performed by underqualified medics, earning it a reputation of being, quote, a paradise for interns, and where the air is filled with the smell of neglected wounds left to rot." So the conditions are so bad and cruel, intentionally cruel, because again, this isn't, oh, somebody slipped and fell and they broke their arm and what do you know, we have to amputate it. No, because of the torture, because of the handcuffing, you have, and to think of how bad it has to be and for how long, you have to have handcuffs on somebody in a inappropriate way that they have to have their limbs amputated. My God. And not even done professionally by interns. They just have grabbing people, just untrained professionals, to chop off body parts. The area smells like rotting wounds because they're infected. Shit. And so I think that was, and there was one more quote that I wanted to share with you all from this article. Give me one moment again. All right. That whistleblower and Al-Ran also described a routine search when the guards would unleash dogs on sleeping detainees, lobbing a sound grenade at an enclosure. As troops barged in, Al-Ran called this nightly torture. So thought it was important to give a glimpse into the horrific conditions that Palestinians are facing inside in Israeli custody in these torture camps, these concentration camps, and I'm just at a loss for words because like I keep mentioning, it should all be like human instinct that this is bad, and I don't understand why. What is it now? 10 months? Not 10 months. It's like 8 months into this. After all the commentary by everybody, after all of the articles and the protests, we still people are still having to make the argument that concentration camps are bad. That hey, maybe our tax money shouldn't be going to facilitate concentration camps and a genocide of 2 million people in Palestine. But this is what we have to do. This is the state of affairs. So um, I don't have nothing left to add to this story. Like I said, this I'm sure this isn't an exception to the rule. Anywhere where they're holding Palestinians indefinitely, extrajudicially, I'm, I'm sure they're being tortured. I'm sure they're facing similar situations to this, if not worse. And like I said before, when the story is told of everything that has gone on in Gaza over these last few months, I don't know, man. It is going to be it's horrific. It is horrific. So these were the two stories that I had prepared for you all. I will go to the comments. Let me see. Brian S says Israel wants people to believe history started on October 7th, never mind the previous 75 years. Yeah. And again, part of their propaganda campaign, the psychological warfare that I'm sure has been actually planned to the detail. Part of their psychological warfare and their propaganda is to like I said, just to obfuscate the conversation, to just confuse the conversation, and have people arguing about shit that is completely that is secondary at best to the main issues of what's happening. Instead of talking about them massacring 15,000 children and babies, we're going to sit here and talk about they want to have a conversation about, is Hamas hiding behind 15,000 babies? Wow. And like I said, you said, instead of actually having a nuanced conversation where you bring up all of the relevant context, like, hey, maybe these people didn't just attack Israeli military outposts on October 7th for no reason. It's not like a bunch of people from South Africa got on a boat and attacked Israel on October 7th. It's not like some people flew in from France and attacked military bases in Israel on October 7th for no reason. No, it was the people. It was the people who you've been occupying for 75 years. You, the occupier, face armed resistance for your 75 years of torture and ethnic cleansing and genocide. That's what happened. And it's a very clear cut, not arguable situation. So, like I said, one of the main tools that I've seen the IDF and the Israeli government deploy to muddy the waters on this whole conversation about genocide is to bring up to leave out all the relevant context and frame the debate in this massively disingenuous way that benefits them, or even makes it seem as if there's two sides to any of this. It sure says that I seemed to be breaking up when I was reading that. I'm not sure exactly which part you were talking about, but if anybody has any other comments that they want to leave in the chat, feel free to do it because we are going to end it soon. And like I said, it was y'all got me fired up. I wrote an article about the situation in Gaza a couple months ago. I'm already trying to figure out another one to write, but I've been following what's going on. I've been reposting stories from citizen journalists in Gaza who are reporting the apocalyptic conditions that their whole families living in real time. The least that I could have done, since I wasn't on here, was to share those stories on my Twitter account. But it was definitely good to be back doing a live stream, making content and interacting with the audience about this very serious topic. And of course, I'm going to have to keep talking about it as this massacre continues. And like I said, even if the bombs stop today, the story is not over because this situation is untenable. This cannot. Israel can't just flip a switch and decide they're going to rain bombs on civilians whenever they feel like, killing 50, 60,000 people at a time whenever they feel like. That is untenable. And aside from that, the whole issue of there's literally no civilian infrastructure in Gaza. Like I said, if the bombs just stop today, there are going to be still scores of people dying indefinitely because of what has already been done. So this story is not ending anytime soon. I'm definitely going to have to keep making content on this. But like I said, if you all have any more comments that you want to share before the end of the stream, please do. And I plan on being back soon. So thank you, everybody. Wear Pilgrim, Ashura, everybody who showed up for the coming back live stream unannounced. Appreciate all of you. Ashura has another comment. Breaking up it, I mean, like, holding back tears. Even Nick from RPN says nobody from ICJ are doing nothing. He said he feels like he's losing his mind because of it, Dante. I, I completely agree with that. And like I said, it's a very eye-opening experience, even for everybody, even for all of you in my audience, all the other people in independent media, the content creators, the audience in general, who aren't strangers to the atrocities going on around the world. This specific genocide, and for different reasons, how visible it is, and the how extreme it is, all of those things are just even more radicalizing people, even more. It seems like this whole shit is off the rails. This whole shit is off the rails, and I gave you the options, the only options really I see to how this is going to end, and none of them, I don't see any of them really materializing in a real way. So what we're left with is people having to watch this go on in real time indefinitely, even though we're not there. I will tell you, it's not a good experience to have to, every time you turn around, every time you go on Twitter, see dead babies and body parts all over the place, and hear about the horrific conditions. That is not a great experience. So we're all left, and I definitely feel for all of the people, and I respect everybody who has been making content throughout all of this, because inevitably you're gonna be at the same place, like how Nick from RBN described feeling. Because how many times are do you have to come out here and do a live stream and say genocide is bad? And let me give you a list of all the genocidal actions that I had to see over the last 24 hours. How many times can you do that and it not affect you? So, like I said, I respect everybody who's been staying on top of this story. Nick at RBN, the whole team at RBN. Caitlin Johnson, who's been writing about it. Even people who you all know we've had disagreements with, people like over at Crystal and Saga at Breaking Points. Respect everybody who's been putting a light on this topic, because this is not easy. This is not easy. And I appreciate the audience who also see the importance of this moment, and are, because there's a lot of people who choose to look away. If we're going to be real, there's a lot of people who choose to ignore this and say, oh, that's real ugly. Hey man, there's nothing I can do, so I'm just going to go about my own business. So it is commendable for all the people who, even in the audience, keeping up with the story and sharing it with people in their lives, so that we don't forget what's happening in Gaza. So thank you all so much for joining the live stream, and I will be back. It definitely will not be I will not be on hiatus as I was. I don't see that happening in the near future. So follow me on Substack, Twitter, subscribe to the channel, make sure your notifications on, because I will be we'll be back out here doing it. So thank you all so much for coming in the live stream. Appreciate y'all.